And this over here is, you're talking about the Bhagavad Gita. This is a painting of Krishna with a golf club in his hand.
Tell me, do you have to tell me about the Bhagavad Gita, how your touch points with the Bhagavad Gita, and then to write an American novel of a golfer based on or inspired by it?
Writers are always looking for something to steal, for a model, a great model for a story and to steal that, and the Bhagavad Gita, which is known as, people have called it the Hindu Bible, right? It's supposedly Gandhi freed India based on the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a wonderful sort of story and it has a great concept. And so I just sort of stole it and related it to golf. Now this, I'll tell you the concept for our listeners' sake, because it really relates absolutely to resistance and all the stuff we're talking about. In the Bhagavad Gita, two armies are lined up across from each other. Chariots, horses, swords, bows, the whole kind of thing. And we are with the great warrior Arjuna in his chariot and with his charioteer. And Arjuna looks across at the army on the other side, and he sees people that he recognizes, kinsmen and teachers and people that he respects and admires. And he suddenly is seized with this notion. He says, I can't fight. Nothing good is going to come out of this fighting these people. They're good people. And he orders his charioteer to drive his chariot out between the armies and stop there. And his charioteer obeys. And at that point, Arjuna lays down his weapons and he refuses to fight. Except it turns out that his charioteer is Krishna, in other words, God in human form. Mm. And at this point, God starts to give Krishna spiritual instruction. And he says, this is kind of an all is lost moment gives Arjuna, an all is lost moment for Arjuna. And so Krishna basically says to him, stand up, you're pissing me off, grab your bow and your sword and everything and get in there and fight. And as you fight, I'm going to teach you what life is all about. And that's kind of what the whole story is. And Krishna goes into, in the Bhagavad Gita, talking about things like karma, duality, non-duality, attachment, non-attachment, the whole idea of yoga in the sense of union with God. And one of we could go on and on. I don't want to take forever.
This, please.
So I just thought that was a great structure for a kind of mentor-protege story. And we could do it on a golf course where the golfer goes out and lays down his golf clubs and says, I'm not going to participate in this tournament. It's a bunch of bullshit, et cetera, et cetera. And his caddy, in this case, was Bagger Vance, which comes from the title of respect for Krishna. One of the titles is Bhagavan, which means Lord. Mm-hmm. And so that was the name of Bagger Vance. The book is much better than the movie.
Which I love the movie, and I only started the book recently. So but it's beautifully written. I can see why it was immediately picked up to make a movie about it.
Well, the next time we get together in person, James, we'll talk about it a little more.
Let's do it.
One point that I think that I think is really great about the Bhagavad Gita is that, and this applies to Christianity and to Jesus as well, that when God appears in person, like Krishna appears in person in this thing, he appears as a servant, not as a king or a prince or anything like that. He's Arjuna's charioteer, right? Drive me out there, stop, do this, pick up my bags, that kind of thing. And Jesus, of course, came as a man of sorrows, right? He did not come as a king on a throne or anything. So there's some great wisdom to that. I mean, that when the divinity shows up in our lives, it shows up in a very humble way that often is despised, And a lot of times I think when you see homeless encampments, like you're in Santa Monica, I'm in Santa Monica, we see them all over the place. You never know who one of those guys and gals in tents might just be somebody with some great wisdom for us.
Well, on that note, it's a great way to tie many of these points together, because it is so often we think God is going to fight the battle for us. We pray for some higher power to do the work for us. But Krishna is like, no, I'm here to serve you. We're going to get this done, but it's going to be you doing it. And in many ways, in the creative journey and for the creator, it is thinking, okay, the market is just going to pick this up. The market is just going to tell me we're on the right path.
Yeah.
Or we're going to get lucky and something's just going to hit a groove. And the truth is, it's never like that. It is through you and your team that you really create the path forward. And it is one of the most healthy ways that you help orient creators in the war of art, is that it is disassociate from this feeling of resistance. That's not you. It's just a force working against you, but also to detach from the results of your work and focus on the process. And that's true. I mean, that's pure Gita right there, but also
Yes.
that's also seems to be purely divine of just surrender and sacrifice, surrender the result and focus on how you can gift your work to others, not how I can create this art so that I can get this validation or adulation, but disidentify with that, the fruits of your labor, and serve those around you with your gifts of art. And maybe it's going to require 20 years of getting really, really good before it's a true gift. That is a beautiful through line between a lot of the modern philosophies of service instead of kingship.
Yeah.